Welcome each one here this evening. Monday, November the 18th, 2024 meeting. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land on which we gather as the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Ottawa, and Mississauga peoples. Confirmation of the agenda that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby approves the agenda for November 18th, 2024 council meeting as presented. May I have a mover, Reeve McBurney, Councillor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. Consent agenda that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent item 4.1.1 and further that the Council of the Township North Huron hereby receives consent items 4.1.2 to 4.3.6 for information purposes. May I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, seconder, Councillor Van Hitterson. Would anybody like to pull anything from the consent agenda? Go ahead, Councillor McBurney, please.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. 4.2.4, I got a question. In regards to the wastewater in Blythe, how long is that bypass going to be in place?
Through you, Reeve, we are currently working with BM Ross to come up with a solution. They are doing some designs, but right now we're not sure on the timeline.
Okay. Is part of that with the filters too?
The filters have failed, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyways, go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. It's regarding 4.34 and 4.35, one from Leamington and Howick, about OPP bills. And I'd like us to pull them, and I think it's worthy of sending a letter of support because, you know, ourselves, North Huron went up 23%. So in our billing, so that's substantial. So, you know, the province should be doing something. They should add to it or help. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Van Hitterson, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I would like to draw everybody's attention to 4.3.3. The draft conservation area strategy for Maitland Valley. The Wabash Valley Conservation Area is in our municipality. They exist on user fees from camping, picnicking, fishing. They're unserviced and seasonal sites. They have forest and agricultural management and recreational water control. The members will review the comments on December the 18th. And if council has any comments, I would appreciate it if they can bring them forward to staff or to me to bring to the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, go ahead. Clerk Lamb, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, provided the mover, Deputy Falconer, and the seconder, Councillor Van Hitterson, are okay with it, your new motion would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent item 4.1.1, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 4.1.2 to 4.3.6, exclusive of 4.3.4 and 4.3.5 for information purposes.
All in favor?
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Okay, all in favor? Carried.
So then your second motion is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send letters of support for agenda items 4.3.4 and 4.3.5. Councillor Palmer is your mover and you're looking for a seconder.
Seconder, please. Councillor Wright. Okay, all in favor? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Public meetings, hearings, and delegations. At this time, we have Erin Shuley of the County of Huron, homelessness in Huron County. She'll be presenting to us, and then we'll have some questions after. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve Heffer. Are you able to pull up my presentation? Yes. How about I get started? While we wait for my presentation to come up. So thank you very much for having me this evening. Homelessness is complex. It's easy to be confused by a lot of what you're seeing and observing around folks who are experiencing homelessness when we don't fully understand it. And so at the county, we're doing a lot of work right now to try and better make sure we understand the experience of homelessness for folks who are living in Huron County, but also understand how best to develop our programs to respond to the growing issues that we are seeing and the growing number of folks who are experiencing homelessness in Huron. Thank you so much. So you'll see that I have lots of slides in this presentation today, and you'll also see in your package that you received a copy of our monthly share out. Those also can be found on the county website. They come out every month with the most current data as we know it to be. Please share it with your groups. Please make sure that you are taking a look at it and sharing it with your constituents as well if they have any questions about those numbers. But I'll take you through a little bit of it right now, just out of interest's sake. Right now, as of when I left the building today, we had about 143 households who are experiencing homelessness. That number fluctuates based on whether we get people housed, whether we lose track of people. But it's important to really note that that particular number exists based solely on folks who are consenting to share with us that they are experiencing homelessness. So that number is probably modest. There's probably others out there who are not who we haven't connected with, or who don't yet feel safe enough to share with us that they are experiencing homelessness. You'll see both here and some data a little bit later on that the largest percentages of folks in Huron are experiencing chronic homelessness, which means that they've been homeless for over 6 months, or they've experienced multiple episodes of homelessness in the past 3 years, totaling to about 18 months. So that's an important number to note, because when folks are chronically homeless, it becomes more complicated to house them or rehouse them, because their health, their mental and physical health declines substantially, and they become a more complicated tenancy. We have seen in October, actually in the month of October, we saw 12 new people enter homelessness that we were aware of. One person reconnected with us. We had 0 who lost their housing, which is fantastic that people are holding on to their housing, and 4 moved into housing that month. Oh, I'm the one controlling the slides. You should probably pay attention. This next slide demonstrating that we have approximately 35,000 folks in Canada who are experiencing homelessness on any given night. And that data is also a little bit dated. It comes from some pre-pandemic data. So I think we'd probably find that substantially higher as well, but I can't speak to that because we don't yet have that data. But what I really want to draw your attention to here on the left-hand side of the slide is you'll see that the number of folks who are youth, 25 and under, 6% of our folks on the list are youth. 89% of them have been experiencing chronic homelessness, and 67% are in receipt of social assistance. But it's not just youth who are homeless, and it's not just folks in the middle. The majority are in that middle group. But if you look to the right-hand side, you'll see that one of our largest growing groups is the baby group boomers. 11% of our by name list was born between 1946 and 1964. 78% of the baby boomer generation on the Huron by name list is experiencing chronic homelessness. And 100% of them are on some sort of fixed income, making it more complicated to house them. So what is homeless? It's easy to be fearful of something that we don't understand when we don't really understand what's happening, what's causing this. And I want to talk a little bit about what are the things that get people to homelessness, but I also want to talk about the impact of homelessness. There's a deep impact on the individual. They have decreased physical health outcomes, increased incidence of heart disease, diabetes, acquired brain injuries. They are at higher risk for morbidity. Those in the crisis of homelessness experience health issues and difficulty overcoming barriers such as accessing and continuing healthcare, right? So they enter maybe hospital, but they don't get to finish their medications because it's hard to do that from the street or stay on your regime when you don't even have a safe place to sleep. And then social isolation and identity isolation. Those are what the impacts to the individual are. The community impact is equally as detrimental. It's expensive. It is not efficient to keep people homeless at all. It is more expensive because they have higher interactions with the justice system. They have higher levels of interaction with the healthcare system. They can draw on health resources that get complicated for folks, for the greater public. So I do want to talk a little bit about what we are doing in Huron County, and where we get our funding from. So the HPP program, Homelessness Prevention Program, is a provincial pot of money that we get. We've been getting it since 2013. It has slowly increased. And with that funding, we're able to run a modest number of programs. So the program that I'm going to speak about a few of them tonight, but one of them tonight is the Bridge Housing Program, which sort of replaces our Out of the Cold program. So when we used to have an emergency shelter for just the winter months, the Bridge Housing Program now is available all year round. It is the same number of bed spaces, and folks can come and stay for about 3 months at a time while they work on their housing goals, but they'll also work on some life skills development. And it is located in Goderich. We do have transportation, and it's located at 3 different buildings. In some shared congregate space. I'm happy even to say right now the program is underway. We have an individual in there in one of our units who we have not been able to get contact with for the last 3 years at all. We have him in there. He's been working on cooking for himself. He's been working on connecting to his goals for housing, and also working on his document readiness. So the Bridge Housing Program creates space and opportunity for folks to connect to workers and begin to figure out what their next steps are going to be towards permanent housing. It's really difficult to think about what your permanent long-term housing goals are when you're in the crisis of homelessness and each night just trying to survive. Folks sometimes say to me, why do people always sleep on the benches when they're homeless? Like, why don't they get up and get a job? Well, they have to move all night long, A, to keep warm, and B, to keep safe. And so you have to sleep during the day when the rest of us have eyes on them to keep them safe. So this type of a program allows them to have that space to feel safe, to close their eyes, to rest, to recuperate, and then begin to think about what their next steps are going to be. Other programs that we have in the county that are supported by the HPP program. Actually, I'm going to back up on that Bridge Housing Program. That program is supported in part by HPP. It is run by our CMHA partners, to whom we're very grateful. It's also in big partnership with the county. The county council has been a big supporter of that program, and it is supported through some county funds. So I don't want that to be missed. It's not entirely supported by the HPP program. We have an addiction supportive housing program also run with CMHA here in Perth. We're very grateful for that partnership. They're a critical partner in the work that we do. In fact, all of the work that we do on homelessness cannot be done by any one agency. It has to be done with a whole of community approach, from the agencies to the people to the supporting councils. The Addiction Supportive Housing Program is a year-long program. It's a transitional program for folks to come in to work on their substance use and mental health and stabilize their housing. We have a housing stability team. They run the Bridge Housing Program, but they also do our community work. And that program is also run by CMHA here in Perth and funded by the HPP program. You'll hear them called Heart to Home. We have a housing liaison that's in partnership with the United Way and the county, and they work in collaboration with our Coordinated Access Program, which I will speak a little bit more to in an upcoming slide, to help find folks housing in the private market, which is super challenging. And if any of you have looked at the private market lately, we're seeing single bedrooms not much lower than $1,400 a month right now. For anyone who knows what Ontario Works is or ODSP, that barely touches a third of their entire allocation. It touches a third of that rent rate. So. And then we have a program called Huron Turning Point, which we're also very proud of. That's done in partnership with us at the county and the Homeless Prevention Program, as well as the United Way. That's a 6-bed transitional program for men, and it's located in Exeter. And again, all of these programs are open to everybody in the county. They are not strictly for those in the community in which they are run. They are available to anybody, and we will transport people to them. I do want to draw your attention to the Connection Center, although I will not linger here because you guys are very familiar with the Connection Center. You have one here that's being successfully run and is an important asset in our work and part of our no wrong door approach to the work that we're trying to do. And that's United Way and again, CMHA here in Perth. The data collection, some of these slides, as I said, I will pass over and invite you to take a look at them yourself, but you'll see that the data collection has been done. Initially it was done through an enumeration, which is kind of a point in time moment count. People don't have to be consenting to be tallied on that list. I can deduplicate it, but they're on that list, which is perhaps why over the years you may have seen that number a little higher than what I report to you on that 140, 143 number. I think our last enumeration was 169, but again, people don't have to say consent to be on that list. I could just put a check mark and add them to it without revealing any information. So our by name list sort of does take the place of that data collection because it really does give us a real-time piece of data to work from and to report back to both the ministry and locally. So one of the big initiatives that we have underway with the county is the collection of the by name list that you've heard me talk about. That is where we are deriving that data. But that by name list gives us two things. It gives me aggregate data from which I can do presentations like this, and I can speak to the community about the state of homelessness and what we're needing to do and advocate up to higher levels of government, or our elected officials can take that forward to the various locations at AMO and such. But the dynamic one, sorry, not the dynamic, but the data about the individual gives me a sense of everyone's individual unique journey into homelessness, what we need to be doing to get them out of homelessness, what their needs are, where they're at in their journey. And that's big information for us to work with when we're working with our partners on rehousing people or getting people stably housed. This is a dynamic list. It shifts every hour, literally. People come and go from it depending on what the status is. So we, when people think they're on that list, they need to understand that they're not in a chronological order and we're just picking from that list. We prioritize off that list with certain conditions that we as agency partners have kind of agreed to. Again, I'll invite you to read this so you can understand the inner workings of a by name list. It's excellent, riveting stuff. You might really want to take a good dive into that. I do want to sort of explain to you how this all works, though. We do have locations. So whether that's what was the shelter or the bridge housing program, that's a low barrier program. So people can come in even if they're not on the by name list. We work with our libraries. We are very blessed to have access to our library. So folks in the library may pop in there and a librarian may say, are you experiencing some homelessness? Let's get you connected back to that list. We have that through our income support programs. We have that through our healthcare systems. So we're pretty lucky in here on the way that we operate. And that's, it's just the credit of being in a small rural community. We get the chances to know each other really, really well. And then from there, they go onto the by name list, and then we work towards their prioritization from that particular document. I do want to draw your attention really quickly on this next slide to our inflow data. And what I really want to show you is that we have still high numbers of people who are being newly identified. So as much as we think we know who's here, there's lots of times where we are still we're learning constantly. And the other thing that's really bothersome for those of us who are in this work is that we have a high number of folks who are aging in. So even by the time they come to us, they're not newly homeless. They're either aging in, as in they've now hit the 6-month mark, or they're coming into us chronically homeless. So they've been in this state of crisis for a significant length of time. This next slide, again, I don't want to belinger the point, but you'll see that the 87% of that final bar in October is chronically homeless, and that number holds true still today. I think it's important for everyone to understand those pathways for folks into homelessness. There's a few things that get in the way. There's the structural factors. There are the individual barriers that contribute to people's homelessness, or there's systems failures, or there's the intersectionality of all three of those things. So those structural things are things like poverty, discrimination, and lack of affordable housing. The individual ones are the traumatic events, family violence, ends of relationships, mental health or addictions issues. And systems failures is that access to public systems, transition planning from welfare, or discharge from provincial institution. And for a lot of our folks, they would hit every one of those things. They're seldom in isolation, or we might think that, the addiction issue came first. That's often not the case. It's usually that there's other issues that have precipitated, and then the addictions compounds all of that. So, and that's important for people to know. Our barriers to service. I don't think I'll have to explain to all of you folks that our soaring rental rates and the limited stock are probably the biggest contributors to that. We've seen lots of changes in the rental stock. And then we don't have a lot of additional supplements for people to access. And then, as I mentioned before, people's acuity levels, the longer they've been chronically homeless, the more challenging housing becomes for them, the more they normalize that state of homelessness. Our current system of service provision, which that labyrinth on the left-hand side really was what we used to be. It was just sort of random, and people were lucky if they got to that golden house in the middle. Now we're trying to be much more systemic in our coordinated access process. Much like a hospital triage system, people come in, we do an intake, we're assessing you or triaging you, and then we are prioritizing you in the right areas and matching you to the right program. If you are having a heart attack, you don't need an orthopedic surgeon. You need a cardiologist. And the same thing holds true here when we're looking at helping people who have struggled to maintain their housing, to make sure that we're getting the right resources to them. For some people, all they need is a little financial underpinning, and for others, they need 24-hour supports. And there's a continuum in between there. And we want to make sure that we are using our resources, especially in a time when they're so limited, the most effective that they could be used. And I pretty much just explained why we prioritize and how we prioritize. So how do we all become part of the solution? One of the things I will do is invite you to the county website, where we have an entire Be Part of the Solution campaign based on how to respond to homelessness. It will help talk you through things like myth busting with people who believe that folks who are homeless are choosing to be homeless, right? Or that people experiencing homelessness are just lazy. There's lots of drop downs in there that can help you to dispel some of those conversations, because they're tough conversations to have, especially when we don't fully understand. And then you can also consider donating to some of those local charities. We can to agencies like CMHA, we can donate to the United Way. There's lots of ways that we can help in that regard, but really changing the conversation. And then once we've changed the narrative around what homelessness is, we begin to then get into actionable responses and healthy programming. So we may be short on resources, and we are, but that doesn't preclude us from getting started and getting to work on this right away. It's complex. I know that it's complex, and I buzzed through that very quickly. So does anybody have any questions for me on what we've talked about, or anything that's not in here that you want to ask some questions about?
Thank you very much, Erin. As they're thinking about questions, my question was, you said about the 6 units in Exeter, and you say they're just for Huron, like if somebody came up from Middlesex, like just below that, they just keep them for Huron.
Right. So those beds are prioritized off of our by name list. So the cringy truth to that is that we have very few people who actually come from other communities into Huron. It happens on occasion. People are often fairly transient. They don't stay for very long. And if you'd asked me this 5 years ago, I don't think I would have believed I'd be saying this today. But we are scrappy for our resources in Huron. All of our service area managers are. And so, while we would add somebody to our by name list, they have to reside in Huron for 6 months before we begin to prioritize them. And to be honest, I have so many other people that it's a long ways before we get to that. I don't like the idea of turning anyone away. We all have the free will to move from community to community. Unless there's a really strong case. So say we might have a woman fleeing domestic assault and we really need to get her away from a predator. Likewise, we have the same sort of relationship with other communities where we need to move somebody from this area because it's just not safe for them to stay here. But in a perfect world, no. And so then their names come off for that particular, for a lot of those programs that I listed, they come off through the coordinated access program, and they are prioritized based on that list.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I have a few thoughts here.
Okay.
It's a shocking report, actually. You know, if you don't know better, and it's kind of, I know about homelessness, but there's certainly I learned some things here, but because of that, I have some questions and when you're doing the demographics, the ages, and you talked about baby boomers, like, wow. Because you said, I think, because they have an income, which would be their old age, I guess, they don't receive the help. Did you say that?
Nope, they received the help. Yep, they're on our
Okay,
list.
I
Yep.
heard it wrong then.
No, they just, I think what I was maybe saying was that they are on a fixed income, which is hard to pay rent when rent costs are going up. But no,
Oh,
they
that's true.
absolutely, they would still receive the help, any age.
And then regarding the money funding, what do folks get? Do they get anything from the province? Is it available to them if they have an email account, say?
So we have two social service pots of money in the province of Ontario. One's Ontario Works and one's ODSP, so on the Ontario Disability Support Program. And so if you're unemployed and you need support through that social assistance program, you can go on to Ontario Works. If it looks like your whatever issues are getting in the way of your ability to work and hold down a job, there'll be a series of things done, and I'm not an expert in this side of this work. Then you can maybe be switched over to to ODSP, so the Ontario Disability Support Program, if you have an ongoing chronic situation. So those are the two forms. Then we also have CPP and Old Age Security and CPPD, depending on where people are at in their age, right? So those programs are available to people, but they're really minimal. And if I'm going to quote 647, I think is your total allocation for Ontario Works. And I'm not going to guess right now at ODSP because I don't have that number in front of me. But it's less. It's around the $800 mark. That's not enough to get you $1,400 worth of rent. That includes your shelter component and your food. So both of those, 647 comes together.
One last one, Reeve, and I'm nervous to say this.
Oh, don't be.
No, I
No.
don't wanna be.
Okay.
It's regarding the myths.
Yeah.
The way it's worded, there are some people that choose to be homeless because they don't want to take mom and dad's rules. So they choose to be. I'm not going to say anything about laziness because everyone, you can have the best job in the world and be lazy. But there are lots of addicts, and that happens sort of later. You mentioned that. I can see that. And I don't know. I would think that some don't bother looking for a job because maybe they find their little lifestyle adequate, or they like it, or they don't trust anybody and they want to be alone. And, that's their decision to do that. And one last one.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, sure. Yes.
I do think you make some interesting points in there, and I would challenge your thinking on a few things. I have yet to meet anybody who would walk away and say, I really like being homeless, but I do think that there's lots of precipitating factors that can absolutely contribute to the decisions that people make. And people's decisions are informed by their experiences, and their experiences that many of us don't get to fully know or understand. And in part because even as somebody standing here in this work, I have no right to tell you their stories. They are their own stories to tell you. I would hesitate and say, I think we all need to talk to people more and listen to people more, and we might better understand what their individual journey was. And they're all unique. There's no one any different than how any of you arrived here to your decisions and experiences. And so I would invite you to try to get to know some folks and see whether those myths that you are questioning within yourself could be different depending on what you learn.
I guess I was just trying to emphasize the operative word of some.
Sure.
Some do choose, some are, some whatever.
Mhm.
That's all. I don't want to
Yeah.
hurt or disrupt what you're saying
Yeah.
here, because there are myths. Yes, there are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's just some choose.
Sometimes what we offer folks is not what they feel safe or trust in.
Mhm.
And that's part of it. I remember seeing that bit of information years ago, and I found that really resonated with me. Right. I think that this is the better choice for you and I'm giving you this choice, but then, and I'm telling you, really think you should take this choice, but in fact, the choice that I'm offering you is not necessarily meeting your needs and I don't understand why.
Exactly. And I would fit into that one there.
So I think,
Don't understand.
yeah, just keep learning. And I think that's the best thing we can do, both for the people we're serving, for our constituents, is to better, the more we learn and the more we understand, the better we got to solve this problem. And whether you like homelessness, nobody likes it, but whether you dislike it because there's a nuisance and a cost to it, or whether you dislike it from a humanitarian perspective, or both of those things, and I think I fall in both of those categories, I still can only do this work when I understand it better.
Sad.
It's a sad state.
Does anybody else go ahead, Councillor Wright, please?
Thanks, through your, excuse me. Do you see it as a barrier, the fact that the temporary housing you have is in Goderich? And I know you said you offer transportation from various communities
Yeah.
to there.
Agreed.
But you see it as a barrier
Totally.
that people have to leave their community?
Totally
to
agree.
access that?
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, and if I had like $7 million, I'd be able to run a program in every area. Our problem is, as I don't have to explain to this group, the geography is hard, and it's really difficult for us to find adequate space and the resources, everything in the right places, and moving people back and forth is hard. I couldn't agree more. I would love the ability to run it. It's the same reason that we sort of stopped shipping people. For the longest time, for a while, people thought, where are all these homeless people coming from? A lot of them have been here for a long time, or over many years, people have been homeless in Huron before. But we had a practice of shipping them to London or Kitchener or Waterloo, wherever shelters were. And that wasn't very humane, because they would get there and they didn't get in. They didn't even know the lay of the land, and they didn't have a friend nearby whose couch they could crash on. So I totally agree with you. I wish that I had the opportunity to do more. But we're maximizing our dollars the very best that we can. But yeah, we will bring people in. We do have people who will come into Goderich or to Exeter or to wherever the programs are, but it would be nice to be able to offer it in every little community. I agree.
And then just a follow-up comment, Reeve, what I read recently about homelessness, it really stuck with me, in that the homeless are not the cause of homelessness.
Yeah.
They're the victims of homelessness. And, I think that's actually a mindset that needs to change. I think a lot of people in the community see a homeless person and say, well, they're homeless. They're kind of the cause, but they're not, they're the victims. And so the conversations I have with people around it as a counselor, I kind of put that twist on it, right? Because if you fall victim to a internet scam, you don't think because you're the victim, you're the cause of the issue, right? And then there's all kinds of examples similar to that. So that's the way I have my conversations on this topic.
Anybody else has any questions for Aaron? If not, we really appreciate you coming and giving us this presentation, and thank you very much.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
Okay, at this time, we'll go to staff reports. 6.1.1 CL 2024-15 schedule of 2025 regular council meetings. At this time, before we go into it, are there any questions for Clerk Lamb? We have to select an option here. Are there any questions for Clerk Lamb? Go ahead, Councillor Van Hitterson, please.
Thank you, Reeve. Where did the meeting change requirements came from, like from 2 to 3 weeks? And would it be an option if it's because staff is spending so much time for preparing for all those meetings, to do a meeting during the day so they are not stuck at night all the time? Here, overtime?
Through your worship, council can do whatever you see fit for meetings. Really the goal with the report was just to provide, as council is aware, you have to adopt your meeting schedule for the next year. So the first option is based on your current provisions in your procedure bylaw, and really the second option was to identify a trend that seems to be making its way through municipalities, and particularly the report notes Goderich and Howick. Other municipalities have moved to a similar schedule of 1 day, 1 night. For example, I believe Asheville-Colborne-Wawanosh has turned to that approach. And basically they do kind of your one meeting at 9 a.m. On a Monday, and then the next Monday they do it at at your regular time, like 6 PM. And generally the times at 6 PM is where you'd focus your more public involvement agenda items such as your delegations, your public meetings. And then generally your 9 AM meetings are more for your staff reports. Yeah, there's many different ways to go about it, but that's an option as well. If council was to select any option other than option one, a procedure bylaw update would be required regardless. So, yep, certainly up to council of whatever you see fit for your meetings, but really the intent of this report was just to identify some new trends that are occurring for you.
Thank you. Deputy Reeve, please.
Thank you. Through your Reeve. I personally don't see a merit in as far as the council changing the way it's performing our duties. That change in one of the options would only be for the benefit of staff as far as reporting time goes. But I have noticed a change in our council meetings, being this is my second term, gone through some pretty lengthy council meetings with having quite a load of reports coming through, and but lately we've been getting less and less reports and quicker council meeting times. You're out of here sometimes in under an hour, which doesn't seem to have enough content in it that I thought that we normally would have had in other times. So I personally don't agree with changing to going to lesser dates that council can do our job as far as getting the words out or interacting with each other on policies and such. We do run into times when things are time sensitive. Sometimes, if we only met once a month to take care of those things, it may be 2 months by the time we get a report back, or doing a severance or something of that nature that would be time sensitive. The less chances we have of dealing with it within the next 2 weeks, that's going to put that up. Maybe it'll be a 6-week delay. So I'm not in favor of changing the personally of changing the meetings to lesser in a month than we have right now. As we just had a meeting with the service groups, they indicated that a nighttime meeting is what they had. They were quite adamant that the daytime meeting we had for them, that they had to take time off of their working schedules in order to come to a council event, put them at a disadvantage. So that's another reason why I would like to just go with the status quo. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wright, and then we'll go to Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, just my thoughts, Reeve. I'm actually in favor of option 2, and actually, strangely, actually, for the same reasons, Councillor Faulkner. I think a 3-week schedule actually would, if something comes up at a council meeting and it's urgent, that would actually give staff time to present it at the next council meeting, where a 2-week duration doesn't really allow that time, right? Because, staff only have a few days to work on it before it has to be finalized to be ready for the next agenda, where a 2-week schedule gives staff, basically almost 2 full weeks to prepare. So anyways, that's why I'm in favor of it. We often meet every 3 weeks anyways. If there's 5 weeks in a month, then we meet there's 3 weeks between the second council meeting and the first one of the next month anyways. And I just like the fact that it gives staff, again, extra time in order to prepare for meetings.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I can go with option 2. I'm thinking of staff being more efficient, getting reports out completed earlier. No, how do I put it? Completed in a satisfactory time. But I do have a concern for the time sensitive items, and then making a notice of motion we're noticing, or we know that if we want staff to do something in particular, it has to be council directed, so we need to do a notice of motion. Well, that time period could have come and gone by the time we actually get to vote on it. So if there's a better way about that, not sure, but you can see what I mean there, right? Yeah.
I'll maybe ask Clerk Lamb to respond to your thought.
Yes, through you, your worship, I guess to the first part of Councillor Palmer's question there. So time sensitivity, generally you have special council meeting provisions, right? You could call a special council meeting at any time for anything that's time sensitive. You have that mechanism currently in your procedure bylaw. Your other piece, there's many ways to do business, right? So North Huron is unique, and one example I'll use in our procedure bylaw, section 19.1. Section 19.1 doesn't allow business to be passed at the same meeting as introduced unless it's time sensitive or administrative in nature. So that's why on our council agendas, you'll see bylaws coming back the next meeting after they've been dealt with. That's not necessarily a common practice among municipalities. You could update your procedure bylaw to remove that provision. So then that way, what's an example here is, can't think of one off the top of my head, but you could have a corresponding bylaw in the bylaw section of the agenda that would correspond to the staff report before you, so that you don't have to wait another 2 or potentially 3 weeks for it to come forward. Same with notice of motions. You could update your procedure bylaw to allow to change the provisions there so that the motion can be introduced and dealt with at that same meeting if it was deemed appropriate, right? So yeah, you can change the provisions of your procedure bylaw to fit how you want to conduct your business, provided they're compliant with legislation.
Question? Yep, okay. Any other questions from any of the members? Seeing none, did I move?
Yeah, so if I may, your worship, ultimately you need a motion put forward for option 1, option 2, or another option if council sees fit. So.
Okay, would somebody like to make the number in the option, please? Councillor Palmer, go ahead. Option 2. And then I'll have the clerk read that, and then we have a mover. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Wright?
Yep, so your motion on the floor is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Director of Legislative Services / clerk dated November 18th, 2024 regarding the schedule of 2025 regular council meetings, and further that the proposed schedule set out in option 2 of staff report CL 2024-15 be approved and posted on the township's website, and that staff be directed to prepare an amendment to the Township of North Huron procedure bylaw for the December 2nd, 2024 regular meeting, and further that the attached 2025 schedules for the Wingham BIA board and the Blythe BIA board meetings be received for information purposes and posted on the township's website. Your movers, Councillor Palmer, and your seconders, Councillor Wright.
Okay, any other discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you, through you. Then would that trigger a rescheduling of the honorariums and the meeting? We're only going to meet once a month. Do we cut that in half? Or is this just adding every time we have a meeting to do with something that we didn't have that we didn't deal with, that we're normally dealing with in 2 weeks, or every 2 weeks, is a special meeting, and that's more cost to the municipality, because those meetings will have to be paid for at a meeting schedule and not during the honorarium.
Go ahead.
Through your worship. So yeah, ultimately that's a council decision to make of what you want to do with your remuneration and expenses bylaw. Right now it's currently written, Deputy is correct, that your honorarium is based on your regular council meetings, and any special council meeting is based on your special and committee meeting council pay. So that would be, if council was desirous of considering something with that, staff would bring something back, but ultimately that's a decision of council of what you want to do with your remuneration and expenses bylaw.
I'm not sure if I heard you right, Deputy Reeve, did you say 12 meetings a year? Like, it'll be 17 meetings, right? 17 meetings a year, like, I
So
thought that's,
yeah, so currently, based on the status quo option, it is usually 22 meetings a year, right? So that is 2 meetings a year on the first and third Monday of each month, except for January and August when there's only 1 meeting. The 3-week meeting schedule works out to 17 meetings. As I believe as Deputy Falconer pointed out, the meetings are likely to be longer than the shorter meetings. So yeah, it's
Deputy Reeve, please.
Yeah, it's just the evaluation of the time in between being longer, whether being the need for more special meetings in between to deal with time sensitive stuff, is that's going to add on to the costs for councils for the yearly wage, because they're at a totally different rate.
Generally, our parameters are for special council meetings are not so much time sensitivity currently, more related to large scale items that we would be here till midnight to deal with, right? Historically in the past is why we have our special council meetings. The one thing I guess I would say is there's only one way to tell of the impact, and if council found that it was resulting in too many special council meetings, you have multiple options. You have the ability to adjust your remuneration. You have the ability to amend your procedure bylaw again and go back to the first and third Monday if you figure this approach doesn't work. So both of those are potential options, and ultimately that's the thing about approving your schedule every year. You get to reevaluate it every year, and if a update to your procedure bylaw is warranted, you can undertake that as well.
Like, I feel that we're just going down 5 meetings, but if it's given staff more time to write the reports, I'm just wondering if that would be worth its weight, I'd say, but again, if it's renegotiated at the end of the year, try it for a year. Go ahead.
Through what, the system's been working for 30 some years. I haven't seen the need that it was broken. I mean, this isn't a council appointed option. This is being brought to us. We haven't asked for this to be renegotiated or.
Yes, true. That is true, is brought forward, but I do remember the clerk saying they hardly have time to get things accomplished, and they're having to get the next meeting in progress, it seems. And I'm just wondering if it'd be a beneficial, but I guess we can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. If it helps staff to be more efficient, get reports to us that really mean something and they're ready to go, like they haven't been swifted along type of thing. I like the idea. If it's better for staff, then we can reevaluate as far as remuneration. That's not a big deal. If it's costing us more money, like costing North Huron more money to have it this way, well, we can change things up. But if it helps staff get the work done and the reports to us, I think it's a good idea.
Councillor Van Hitterson and then Councillor Wright, please.
Yes, we just heard from the clerk that there are not many time sensitive documents, so they can bring those forward not in 2 weeks, but in a month. So I think the schedule for the 2 weeks is working fine. I think we often in our reports and correspondence have very lengthy reports, and if you have another job by the side, or this is your on the side job, then it often takes a long time to review everything and to make a sensible decision about things. So I really would like 2 meetings better, 2 meetings a month.
Councillor Wright, please.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, again, I was just going to point out, we often go 3 weeks between meetings. It happens every time there's 5 Mondays in a month. It happens when we only have one meeting in August. It happens when we have one meeting in January. I can't remember ever needing an emergent meeting due to a special or pressing issue during any of those gaps. So, you know, I really don't see this as being much of an issue. And, you know, as someone who does hold a job, I think would actually be beneficial for people in those positions to just have to prep for a council meeting once every 3 weeks instead of more often. Thank you.
Okay. Well, at this time, we've gone around the table maybe more than we should have, but it's good points coming forward. And so we have a motion on the table, and clerk has read it. So we have a mover and a seconder. So we'll vote on this at this time. All in favor? Defeated.
So then someone wants to move option one.
Okay, go ahead, Deputy Reeve, please.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve. I'd like to put forward as a motion, the option 1, status quo.
Do you want to read?
So the motion on the floor would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Director of Legislative Services / Clerk dated November 18th, 2024 regarding the schedule of 2025 regular council meetings, and further that the proposed schedule set out in option number 1 of staff report CL 2024-15 be approved and posted on the township's website, and that staff be directed to prepare an amendment to the, and actually, sorry, that won't be required, on the township's website. And further that the attached 2025 schedules for the Wingham BIA board and the Blythe BIA board meetings be received for information purposes and posted on the township's website. So you have a mover and Deputy Reeve Falconer.
Deputy Reeve, seconder, please. Councillor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. 6.3.1 RC 2024-15 Wingham Ironman liquor licensing request at North Huron Westcast Community Complex. We'll just have at this time questions for Director Stice if she wants to give a high view picture of it, and then we can ask for questions then, if you don't mind, Director Stice.
Thank you, Reeve Heffer. You may recall back in September that Mr. McCallum of the Wingham Ironman brought forward a request of council to consider the licensing for the Wingham complex, as well as to look at licensing the stands of the arena. And so council directed me at that point to come back with a report. And so in front of you is a report that took some time to get some clarification on the information. So I had an opportunity to speak verbally with members of the AGCO, the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. I also have written confirmation of clarification of information as well. I also was able to do an inventory of current agreements and recognizing where our municipal alcohol policy is at, but also our agreements with the Columbus Center as the current holder of the liquor license for that complex. So in front of you are 3 options for your consideration, or council may have additional options to move forward with in respect to this request.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll ask, are there any questions for Director Stice at this time? Deputy Reeve, please.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve. When choosing one of the options, is this going to be an option that is township wide, or is this site specific of this?
So through you, Reeve Heffer, this is a site specific impact because the request was for the licensing at the North Huron Community Complex. Our municipal alcohol policy references our other facilities, so this would only apply there.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Wright, please.
Yes, thanks, through you, Reeve. I guess I'd just like some clarification on where we are. You know, I guess my recollection is if council wanted to stay with the status quo, we wouldn't have directed a report to be done to explore changes to the liquor license. You know, so I thought I thought we were gonna get a report that would have, I guess, already kind of fleshed out what those changes were. So I don't necessarily wanna, you know, choose an option that's gonna direct staff down a specific road if we don't know all the options yet. So, you know, I guess I'd just like some clarification on why we're getting a report back at this time when there maybe should be some more flesh, some more options in it.
Through you, Reeve Heffer. The Ironman presented a request to take on the liquor licensing for the township. There was a second request in there, and that was to seek approval by the township to license the stands, so-called tiered seating. When I took that back, my first call was to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission, who informed me that there can only be one liquor license per address, so per physical establishment. So this report is to outline some clarification that I've received from the Alcohol and Gaming Commission. So currently, the Columbus Center owns the township has authorized the Columbus Center to hold the rights for our liquor license. So we would need to make some changes to that. We would need to make some changes to our municipal alcohol policy. We would also need to make some changes to our agreement with the Columbus Center, because there is a specific clause in there that gives them the authorization to hold a liquor license. So before proceeding down that, I need to understand if that is the direction that council would like to go. Secondly, with a tiered seating, that requires the municipality again to seek an application to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario, because the Columbus Center owns the rights or holds the liquor license for the municipality. We would first have to chat with them about extending their liquor license up into the tiered seating. And then council would have to decide if that is something that they would like to do, to proceed with. So there is still quite a bit of investigation and information to be gathered. Additionally, I did have a chance to speak with our insurance provider, who exercised quite a bit of, who advised on quite a bit of caution in proceeding in this manner. Council may want further information to come back around the risks associated with expanding the alcohol provision or some of the benefits. At this time, there isn't too much of a difference for the municipality. We receive a rental income from the Ironman to rent the Hot Stove Lounge, and that would still proceed regardless of any expansion of this licensing.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Thank you, Reeve. I think I read that if we pursued it, we basically have to terminate our license as it is and start fresh again, renew, or try and get another license that would encompass all these possible changes. And my other thought is the liability is a bit of an issue for me. Just alcohol in the stands just doesn't seem to sit right with me. But seeing that Columbus Center would have to agree to that, does it affect their insurance? Like do we have two insurances that we would be dealing with, or just one?
Through you, Reeve Heffer. So there is the township insurance provider who has indicated that there may be increases in costs to what we're doing. Depending on the choice of council, there may be an impact to the Columbus Center. I don't know that at this point in time. There still requires a bit of investigation at this point, if this is a direction that council wants to go.
And Hitterson, please.
Thank you, Reeve. All the extra costs that staff would make and insurance costs and anything like that, would that be retrievable from the Ironman, or is this something that the whole municipality has to foot the bill for? And I also have a little bit of trouble with the Knights of Columbus. If they have events planned already, how would that affect their business? They have a business set up around their license and events and something like that. And the Ironmen are only there in the winter time to do their events.
Through
So
you,
it's about cost, actually. Yeah.
yes, through you, Reeve Heffer, in terms of recuperating costs for the expenses to move us forward, that would need, if council would like us to seek for those costs to be recovered, we could look at what that might be and bring that back. In terms of the impact to the Columbus Center, when council approved the municipal alcohol policy, it was identified that the licensed events for the rest of the complex were minimal, and so felt that the Columbus Center was the appropriate person to hold the license because of all of the just basically how they're set up, right? They're set up to be an event venue. So there would need to be some conversations if council decides that's the route to go, then we would enter into conversations with the Columbus Center, but I felt it was premature to enter into those conversations without council direction.
Deputy Reeve, please.
Thank you, through you, Reeve. Initially, this was a request from the Ironman to change the or to expand their outreach in the arena. How is any of this going to affect them? I haven't heard from. I see they're in attendance. Maybe they would speak to it as to what their initial plans were and whether what we're doing is going to skew that one way or another. Because right now I believe they would have to get their liquor license goes through the Columbus Center currently. I just want to know I don't want to do something that they don't want done.
Wait, please.
Yeah, thanks for your Reeve. If I recall correctly, the issue was that couldn't get sufficient volunteers from the Knights of Columbus to run the bar anymore. So if we stick with the status quo, I think the end result would be no liquor served at Ironman games, right? Because they can't get the Knights of Columbus would have to use their liquor license in order to provide the help, right? So, I mean, I think that's the issue with sticking with the status quo. It would basically mean, no alcohol sales at Ironman games anymore because of the lack of support from the volunteers.
Thank you. And then I'll ask Councillor Van Henderson. Then I saw Jamie McCollum. If it's all right with council, I'll have him come forward.
It
Go
is
ahead.
my understanding that the Ironmen have a caterer's endorsement with the Cowboy restaurant in Blythe right now. And the question for Kelly is how many caterers endorsements can you get? Because it's my understanding that it's just for 10 times that you can expand it somewhere else. So could they have and the Cowbell and the Knights of Columbus and the Belgrave Community Board, could they all do their endorsements to the Hot Stove Lounge during a game?
Through you, Reeve Heffer, yes, that would be correct.
Okay. Okay, can I bring yeah. Okay, did a hand go up over here? Yeah, go ahead.
It was just a quick question. The license currently through the Knights of Columbus and the facility is only allowed to have one. So if the township was to acquire a liquor license, then the Knights of Columbus would not have a liquor license.
Through you, Reeve Heffer, that is my understanding in conversations with the AGCO, both written and verbal.
Thank you.
If Jamie McCollum would like to come forward and just give you a minute to plead your case, please.
Council, I'd like to thank you guys for taking the opportunity to take time to consider this request. To answer Deputy Mayor Deputy Reeve Faulkner's comment there about the original request. When we first came to council, we were without a liquor provider for our games, as Councillor Wright had mentioned, and
Hit the mic, please.
that better? Sorry.
As I said, at the time, we did not have an alcohol provider for our games and we wanted to make that available for our fans. So Knights of Columbus, they were not able to help us with that, so we looked at other avenues to do, and that was one of them that came up. And speaking with Madam Stice here earlier, we said maybe it'd be best to go back to the Knights of Columbus and see if we can work together on expanding it. If they can't if they can't do the bartending, then we can at least do the expanded area, maybe if they're agreeable to it. And just to follow up in the AGCO, in previous discussions with Kelly, I had followed back up with it. You're never going to get the same person twice. And one of the references that was given to me, Conestoga Mall and Kitchener. There's a small couple places in there that have alcohol on the same premises. And that was one of the ones that they used as a reference, malls in the city, for two different liquor licenses.
Any, to, the gentleman when he's here? Go ahead.
Thank you, Reeve. Jamie, do you have registered servers within your group or certified servers? I'm not sure what the term is.
Through the Reeve, we have a committee that's willing to take this on if it gets to it. We've had people volunteer to step up and help us if we are indeed successful in expanding it.
Can a deal be made with the Columbus Center they've got the license, but you could provide the servers?
Through the Reeve again, I cannot answer that. In conversations with the Columbus Center, they strictly said that they had volunteer problems and they would not be able to help us with the bar, and we looked at other avenues to continue on as what we were doing.
Follow up? Thank you. You know, be nice to make something work. I didn't realize the hot stove was dry. But if the license is there, can you talk to I don't know, we have to find out if it would work legally, I guess. But if you could work with the Columbus Center to at least have the hot stove lounge available and working. Like, that's better than nothing, right? Well, you've got nothing now, so that would be a next best situation, would it?
Through the Reeve again, we're willing to work with anything and anyone to make this work. If the Knights of Columbus want to work together, we're more than willing to chat with them. We're more than willing to work with staff to reach a common end goal. There's no animosity with anybody. We just want to make things good for our fans.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I think we've discussed it. Could I have a motion from the floor from somebody, please? Go ahead, Councillor Van Hitterson, please.
I would like to bring forward the motion with option 1.
Option 1, so
Yeah, and the reasoning behind that is all the things Kelly just said about the agreements with the Wingham Columbus Center and the problems with the addresses, the increase in liability insurance, and there was another one that was really concerning. Well,
okay,
Can I amend that?
a motion, okay,
Can I amend
amend that. We have to have a seconder first.
Okay.
Okay, you made the motion, seconder. Somebody be a seconder? Go ahead, Councillor Whitfield.
The amendment is the same, but to allow the Ironmen to see if they can communicate with the Columbus Center to provide the servers so they can use the hot stove lounge. I'm elaborating, but the same thing.
Yeah, just ask, wait for the clerk to get this written down and then recite back to us, please. Go ahead, Clerk Lamb, please.
So just the addition to the motion, so it would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the report of the Director of Recreation and Children's Services dated November 18th, 2024 regarding liquor licensing at the North Huron West Cast Community Complex, and further that council directs staff to proceed with option number 1 as identified in staff report RC 2024-15, and further that council directs the Wingham Ironman to reach out to the Wingham Columbus Center to see if they'd be willing to operate the bar.
Reeve, point of order. Council has no authority over the Wingham Ironman. I don't think we should be amending a motion of council to direct the Wingham Ironman to do anything.
And maybe that's my apologies on the wording. You can soften the wording directs to encourages. Yeah, my apologies for that. So if your mover, Councillor Van Hittersum, and your seconder, Councillor Whitfield, are fine with it, that would be your new motion.
Fine with it? Okay, all in favor? If there's any changes that you want, go ahead. That, like anything you want to bring forward, go ahead, and then
Well, thank you, Reeve. I was just with the process that's being put forward in the motion, if you want, we can go and vote on it there, but I just don't see why once again, we're leaving the decision of things to go on in the township to another organization. This leaves everything in the hands of the Knights of Columbus as to whether they proceed or do not proceed with something that goes on within our municipality.
okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, go. Councillor Palmer, please.
I think that's irrelevant. It's down to the fact that they hold the license and you can't make we couldn't make any changes anywhere without their approval. Just the way our agreement's set up, and it's not a hard ask.
Okay, let's take this to a vote, please. All in favor of the motion that was just read? Let's see your hands. Carried. Okay, at this time, we're going to 6.5.1, Community Risk Assessment, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives a report of Director of Fire and Emergency Management Services / Fire Chief dated November 18th, 2024 regarding the Community Risk Assessment, CRA, and further that the Council directs the Director of Legislative Service / Clerk to prepare a bylaw for the December 2nd, 2024 regular meeting to adopt the Community Risk Assessment for the Township of North Huron, and further that the Community Risk Assessment be used to inform further decisions on fire protection services within the Township of North Huron. May I have a mover? Councillor Wright, Councillor Whitfield. Are there any questions for Chief Crager at all? Pretty straightforward. It's being proactive, the way I look at it. And so we'll take this to a vote. All in favor? Carried. Yeah. Carried. Oh, maybe I didn't see it. 6 CS 2024-17 North Huron Museum Deaccession Project, report number 17. Are there any questions for Denise at this time? Seeing none, may I have a mover? Councillor Van Hitterson, seconder, Councillor McBurney. All in favor? Carried. CS 2024-18 Volunteer Recognition Program. Again, we got to ask for a number to be put in there. Are there any questions for Denise at this time? Oh, seeing none. Do I have somebody that will put the option forward?
Yeah, so just for clarity, option 1 was the gala event. Option 2 was the celebration event. Option 3 was individual recognition at events and programs, and option 4 was an award system. And so the staff recommended option noted in the body of the report was option 2.
Okay, we'll go ahead. Councillor Wright, please.
Yes, thanks for your, so I'll make the motion that we adopt option 2. I think it's a good idea for everyone to get together, recognize, and that way kind of all the volunteers invited get recognition, right? Even though there's obviously just some awards, and I think it's a good fit.
I have a mover, seconder, Counselor McBurney, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. This time we're of the 6.6.3 CAO 2024 Huron County OPP Detachment Board Remuneration and Expense Policy and Budget. Are questions for our CAO Evans at this time? May I have any, no questions? I don't see any questions. Would you like to say anything? No, pretty straightforward. May I have a mover? Counselor Wright, seconder. Counselor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. Reeves report, lighting of the lights, was held this past weekend. As a great evening out there. Thanks to the Wingham Public Works was made mention of for help putting up the lights, and the firemen, thanks Mr. Krager for allowing them to come over and just have a thing. It's just safety with the kiddies. It's just a great night. They're running around with hot chocolate. It's just a super night. It's just great to see that. And also like to make mention of that the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors congratulate our employee Dax McAllister for his completing the Public Works Leadership Development Program. And I think at this time we can show our appreciation to Dax for this. Congratulations, Director Dax. This time I just want to, I had to meet with, or not meet, sorry, just meet with the opening of the Silver Stick down here, which they've had 39 years they've been going on. And it was a great night. They had different people in, but just bring congrats from our township. And again, it was mentioned in there about the workers that keep the place going. I thought that was really good coming from the Mr. Goodall, that the arena keeps going tic-tac-toe is just great, because you know what that can do to a tournament in an arena. So again, kudos out to the workers there. This morning, Clerk Lamb and I had the privilege of representing North Huron at the Huron County Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting to accept the award of merit for barrier-free access in the public sector category. The award recognized outstanding contributions by government bodies, nonprofit organizations, and public institutions to create spaces and experience that remove barriers and foster a more inclusive community. This award honors those who have demonstrated excellence in designing spaces, products, or service that enhance accessibility for people with disabilities. It celebrates a commitment to innovation and design that promotes inclusivity and equity. North Huron was recognized for our new council chamber space, which is something we as council and staff should be very proud of. For the benefit of those in attendance and watching the live stream this evening, the new council chambers was designed to be fully accessible. The space contains a fully accessible council horseshoe on a level surface that can be accessed by wheelchair and mobility device. The space also contains a fully accessible public gallery with accessible seating with armrests on the chairs, an accessible podium with adjustment height capabilities, multiple accessible entrances, color contrast throughout the whole space, a hearing audio loop microphone system to amplify sound in the space for assisted hearing, appropriate turning radius all through the space, multiple TV monitors for visual accessibility, non-slip carpet tile flooring with color contrast. This new setup has greatly improved the experience for both council members and the public, creating a more inclusive atmosphere where everyone can participate fully during meetings regardless of their abilities. This is something we should be proud of, and I hope we can continue to champion accessibility in our community. And Carson has the thing that was given to us in a picture and frame, and just say they're very honored that they can come and ask questions to Carson. I know he had two people asking and want to see the picture of the podium. So other people are thinking at this time. So again, kudos out to Carson and his crew. This time, are there any council members, board and committee reports? Councillor Palmer, please.
Thank you, Reeve. Yes, I was at Huron County Water Protection Steering Committee meeting just recently, and actually it was probably one of the best ones I've had. A lot of people felt the same way. We had speakers from neighboring counties, Omafra, of course, Huron County, and they were discussing the success stories regarding protecting water, and a lot of it was with tree cover. Really got a lesson in that, and yeah, what I liked maybe the best that applied to me was planting windbreaks, on large parcels of land, and the benefits, because they've actually been able to figure that out, test that out, and it's very well worth, there is no crop loss with them, and that was good. So, yeah.
Thank you. Did anybody have any other report that they'd like to talk about? Councillor Wright, go ahead, please.
Yes, thanks, through you, Reeve. On October 26th, I did attend a meeting as my delegate to the Alice Munro Festival of the Short Story. It was a very productive meeting, a lot of thoughts thrown out there. There isn't anything conclusive yet. We're going to have some follow-up meetings. It seems likely there's going to be a redesign of the festival. But exactly what that looks like hasn't come out yet, but there certainly is the intent to maintain a literary festival in Huron County. And so we're gonna proceed along that road, and I'll keep the council updated as some more tangible things are cemented in place.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Does anybody else have anything? See none. At this time, any notice of motions? Comments by members. Sorry, go ahead, Deputy Reid, please.
Thank you, through you, Reeve. My comment is on the handling of the 6.5.1, the community risk assessment. I would just like to commend the head of the fire services for bringing forward a comprehensive and very detailed 226-page report that just got handled more like it was in correspondence than it was a report from staff. I don't know whether the fire chief had any comment that they were going to make or a presentation they were going to make, but I just thought it needed a much more wholehearted congratulations on an excellent report. I'm sure that didn't take you a minimal amount of time. I imagine that was quite an endeavor with that many pages. So I just like to give a little more onus to the depth and the costing on that report. That I didn't think it really got kind of pushed over there. That the viewing audience didn't see the presentation of the length and the breadth of what was in that, and it was done for their benefit and their protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any notice of motion? Seeing none. Bylaw number 84-2024 North Huron Westcast Community Complex Concession Booth Agreement with OMG Twisted Fries. May I have a mover? Councillor Wright, Councillor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. 9.2 bylaw number 85-2024 Huron OPP Detachment Board Remuneration and Expense Policy. May I have a mover? Councillor Wright, seconder, Councillor Deputy Reeve, all in favor? Carried. Next meeting, special council meeting will be held on Friday, November 22nd, 2024 at 9 a.m. in the North Huron Council Chambers. A special council meeting midterm bus tour will be held on Friday, November 29th at 8:30, starting in North Huron Council Chambers. And the next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, December 2nd, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the North Huron Council Chambers. The next Wingham BIA board meeting will be held on Thursday, November 21, 2024 at 6:30 in Hot Stove Lounge at the North Huron West Cass Community Complex. And the next Blythe BIA Board meeting will be held on Thursday, November 28, 2024 at 8 a.m. in the first floor meeting room at the Blythe and District Community Center. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none, closed session reporting out that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby proceeds at 7:25 to an in-camera session closed to the public under section 239 2B of the Municipal Act to discuss the following personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee. And further, that the Council of the Township's Solicitor Greg Stewart remain in attendance. May I have a mover? Councillor Van Henderson, Councillor Wright. All in favor? Carried. This time we'll take a 3 or 4 minute break